Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about a number of big time performances from this past weekend. Missouri gets a huge win that puts them in CFP contention. TCU jumps to the top of the Big 12 with a win over SMU. Memphis gets a massive upset and a number of other things, but we got a couple other games. Let's do a little bit of a whip around to, I believe, 9 different games that I felt we should touch on. A couple in the group of 5 that I feel like we got to talk about at the end, but let's go ahead and start with one of the top teams in the country. Oregon gets a pretty comfortable win, 41-7 over Oregon State. They kind of sleptwalked through the first half of this game, did not necessarily play great football, but they found their footing, they found their offensive footing, and went on to win this one. Totally makes sense. They got a big one next week against Penn State, and just can't wait. We'll talk about all of that stuff on Wednesday. It's going to be probably a longer show on Wednesday if I had to imagine, because there's too much stuff to talk about. But at the end of the day, you had 3 guys over 60 yards in this football game. Incredible stuff. None of them went over 70, which is pretty cool, and all of them had a touchdown. So you're really rolling the ball around. You're getting all the guys the ball. Kenyon Sadiq is an absolute problem. I don't think there's going to be a linebacker, DB, safety, doesn't matter, that can guard that dude. He is absolutely incredible and someone that's going to be a huge portion of what Oregon's going to do this year. Dante Moore went for 304 and 4 touchdowns. The big test still awaits for this football team. We'll see what they're really made of this weekend, but an incredible team that just continues to play crisp football. Texas finally looks like the Texas that we thought they were going to be coming in. They beat Sam Houston State 55-0. It was Sam Houston State. Let's just make that very, very clear off the top. So, not a good football team, something that Texas very well should have done. In a game like this, they were able to do. That being said, they hadn't done what they should have been able to do the first 3 games of the season. Arch Manning had a very nice day, 320 total yards, 5 total touchdowns, and people got really mad that he stared down someone. And this was a conversation that went on kind of weirdly all over the internet. I didn't think it was all that big of a deal, but at the end of the day, people were going to get their fodder out of it when it's Arch Manning. Totally understand that. I don't see the big deal. I'll be totally honest with you. This is a kid that played 3 weeks where he did not play the football that he is capable of, that a lot of people know he's capable of, and people came down on him. People were telling him that he was going to be Ben Simmons, that he was going to be the Markelle Fultz of college football, that he wasn't worth his star rating, that he's actually just not a good player. He's never going to be good. The problem that he has are not fixable. He heard all of that. And he has a moment where he walks into a touchdown for the very first time. It didn't matter who it was in front of him. They were going to get a little bit of crap. And frankly, that guy that he talked a little crap to, you'll find earlier in the game, talked a little crap to him. So all is fair on the football field. He didn't get physical. He didn't do anything aggressive. People got to calm down. I get it with Sam Houston State. I get it's not all that impressive. The kid had a lot on his shoulders going into that football game. He's letting out some emotion. Calm down, everyone. But at the end of the day, a lot of Arch Manning talk is going to be all over the place. A lot of people saying Arch Manning is back and Texas is going to keep rolling. I got to see it against Florida, plain and simple. Sam Houston's, it looked good. It looked a whole lot better. He looked on time, looked on target, looked confident, all of that great stuff. They scored on 9 straight drives. Incredible, incredible stuff from the Texas offense. Do it against Florida, and then we have a conversation. If you do it against Florida, then I know that you went against a really good defense and were able to execute at a high level. As of right now, I just know that you can dominate the teams that you should dominate, which doesn't really tell me all that much. Notre Dame gets a comfortable win, 56-30 over Purdue. I don't know why NBC stayed on this game instead of going to Indiana, Illinois. I was screaming at my TV for a very long time. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame gets a win for the first time this year. They needed it. I don't feel confident about this football team. I'm sorry. You give up 30 points to Purdue, and all due respect to Purdue, they're playing good football. They're a much better football team than they were last year. A ton of respect to Barry Odom. Nitro Tuggle is an absolute problem coming over from Georgia, but at the end of the day, you can't give up 30 points to Purdue. You just can't. You can't find a way to give up 30 points to this team. Now, Jeremiyah Love went for 157 and 2 scores. Jadarian Price, 72 and 3 touchdowns. It all worked out. It was fine. Purdue couldn't run the ball, which is a plus, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame's got a lot of defensive things they got to figure out, and they got a couple of teams in a USC, in a Pitt, and a couple of teams that if you don't get the pass defense figured out, they're going to go for 400 on you, and you're going to lose that game because, again, you just can't figure it out defensively. I tend to believe they will, but time's running a little bit short now. USC gets a win over Michigan State late night, 45-31. This one was a battle. It was kind of an interesting game where USC was relatively in control. I don't mean it was a battle like they were back and forth and down to the wire, but just USC was relatively in control in this one. Michigan State just kind of kept punching. There was just that moment where you're like, okay, Michigan State, they're officially put away. That's that. And then they make a big play, and then it happened again, and then they make another big play. So they hung around for long enough in this football game. The USC defense is not where it needs to be. I do think it's a little bit better of a unit than they've had in the past, but at the end of the day, a little bit better is not going to be good enough to get you where you want to go. They got a huge one against Illinois this upcoming weekend, and if Jaden Mayava plays at that level, they're probably going to put up a lot of points the same way Indiana did. Now, can you stop the Illinois offense? That's a big-time question, but they win that game. They're in the CFP race at the very least. Still some very tough games coming forward, but a very interesting team that looks a whole lot like a normal Lincoln Riley team that he had at Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to make I'm not to say that they're going to make the playoff, but to say that if they don't score 45 points a game, they might lose a whole lot of football games. Duke wins 145-33 over NC State. This was kind of a weird game. It felt like NC State was in relative control early on in this football game, and then Duke just kind of took it and took over. They had three INTs, a forced fumble on on CJ Bailey. An incredible game from this defense where you still give up 33 points, but you make the plays when you need to make them, which is a huge thing for a Manny Diaz football team. Really incredible performance from Duke here, and one that they absolutely needed. I don't think either of these teams are really in the ACC hunt overall. Maybe things get a little bit crazy the rest of the way and Duke can run the table and do something awesome, but at the end of the day, just a really fun football game over there in the ACC. Arizona State gets one that they very badly needed, 27-24 on a walk-off field goal over Baylor. If they didn't get this one, it would have been a very weird time. They lost the game to Mississippi State. They played good enough against Texas State, not perfect, but found a way to win this one, and you're in a position where at least you're in a winning position. Going into conference play, you got to beat TCU this weekend. If you don't beat TCU, I believe on Friday night, you're going to have a problem because there is going to be a ton of games forward where you have Utah, Texas Tech over the next two games. It's not going to get better. You have to find a way to win on Friday if you want to be in the conversation. If they don't, this might just be one of those years that Arizona State just has to kind of piece their way through and then continue to build going into 2026. And for Baylor, it's just not the team defensively they need to be. They're going to play way too many teams that have the offensive firepower to take advantage of it, and I don't think it's going to get easier for them. Quickly, Tulsa beat Oklahoma State. I don't know. I have no earthly idea how this is happening. I don't know what happened to Mike Gundy and the Oklahoma State program. It's going to come to an unceremonious end. I don't know if it's midseason. I don't know if they let him ride out the rest of the season. I know it's really bad, and you got dominated by Dominic Robertson in this game. But at the end of the day, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what's going to happen going forward. I know that he is another guy that you're going to have to watch very closely for that headline that maybe he's let go here pretty soon. UNLV got a weird win this past weekend. They stay undefeated in the group of six level. If anyone is going to be able to crack the American party they're having over there, it's probably going to be UNLV, and they're probably going to have to go undefeated. It's still a very weird team. They came back from 14 down in this football game to win it, so they got something. I'll say that. I don't know what exactly it is. I don't know if it leads to an undefeated season, but they're doing something so far. And then North Texas gets a big win in the overtime over Army. They are firmly in the American race, as is Army. So the American Conference, probably going to be the craziest conference in the entire country that very few people will probably be paying attention to. But North Texas still has USF, Navy, and Rice left on the schedule. Still some work to do. Same for Army as well. But it's a very fun team that has a very fun offense. Some really interesting games. Not necessarily the most consequential games in the grand scheme of things, but definitely some talking points I wanted to get to there, and some Group of 5 love that if you're not giving the Group of 5 love, you're not doing it right. But at the end of the day, let's take our last break here. When we come back, I'll do it. I'll give you my top 25. I feel good enough about it. There's definitely some ones in there that I think people aren't going to like, but at the end of the day, that's the world that we live in. So I'll talk about it right after this, so stick with us.